Hello, this is Matthew Chan, and it is September 16, 2011, and I'm coming with you with a brand new extortionletterinfo.com update. And it's been many months since we've done an update, and so it's about that time. So today I have a new partner in crime that is filling in for Oscar today, and his name is Robert Krosankis. Did I get that okay?
Yes, you did. You got it perfect.
And I warmly welcome Robert to our little family here at ELI. And just for you listeners, Oscar Michelin is still around, but because of his very busy schedule and so forth, I've decided to invite Robert into this video camp update. So how are you doing, Robert?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, Robert, I just want to say publicly and acknowledge you that you have really been a great supporter of Oscar and myself. You're a huge active participant of our forums. You have been dedicated. You have been very, you pay attention to detail. You have a good way about you, and you've really, really just become sort of our third official member just by your sheer involvement, and I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. It was certainly, not planned by any means. I'm here for the same reason everybody else is here. I got tangled up in the mess, and I follow it pretty religiously, and I like to stay on top of it.
Well, and people should know that Robert is not just a viewer. I mean, he actually answers a lot of questions on our behalf, and I've said this to Robert even before we even got started. He really gets the gist of what we're trying to do, and some of our high points, and so really Oscar and I have sort of regarded you as our unofficial spokesman just because you've just been following us so closely, and I just thought it was high time to bring you on board. Now, Robert, you and I talked last month, I believe, so we were actually talking about this, but then I got caught up with my schedule, and it just put this off so much. But I did find an opening today, so I was like, I'm going to call Robert, we're going to make this thing happen.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so those of you who are looking for Robert, he goes by Buddha Pie. So where does Buddha Pie come from, Robert?
I'm down here in Jupiter, Florida, which is just a little bit north of West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
And I've been down here 20 years or so, and I own my own web development company, and hence, I'm here with you all.
So, where did that name come from?
The Buddha Pie?
Yeah. Or is that too long a story to get into?
It's a long story. I've had the name for 15 years, and it's just one of those things that does not go away.
Okay, no problem. I thought it was a cool name. So, do you mind sharing a little bit about your experience with your with the whole involvement with Getty? I mean, we've all heard my story, and my story's up there for everyone to read, and I've talked about it to death. So it's time for somebody else to tell their story.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I originally got the letter back in May of 2009. Mm-hmm. Obviously, upon immediately opening this letter and reading this letter, like everyone else, I got frazzled.
Yeah.
I immediately had called Getty and explained the situation. My situation is a little bit different than others. I had purchased a template pack back when I first started business almost 15 years ago.
Right.
And with this template came the licensing and everything else. So as far as I was concerned, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do a Google search and grab images and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So I spoke to Getty and I explained the situation, but naturally that fell on deaf ears. They wanted a invoice. I supplied them with the license agreement, which they said anybody can create that, and we want an invoice. Well, naturally, I don't have an invoice going back 12 or 13 years.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
And naturally, the company that I purchased the product from is long gone.
Yes.
So, I'm left hanging the bag. I need to, what I need to get out there is, I'm all for enforcement of copyright. I'm a photographer. I'm a web developer. I protect my my content that I write, my designs that I do, I protect them.
Yes.
So I'm all for that. It's more of the way they go about it that doesn't sit well with me. If I had stolen the images, chances are I would have paid it and been done with it. But that wasn't my situation, and I just felt, the way they go about it is just, it's unethical.
Right.
Right.
So, all right. So when you got this letter, I guess you said you also called Getty. Now you also did some research on the web, correct?
I immediately called Getty, twice that same day, and immediately realized I was not going to get anywhere with them. So yeah, I did some research. I found ELI. I got the letter, I think, on the 9th of May. By the 11th of May, I had already joined the forum. I had already contacted Oscar. I had my letter back from Oscar by the 19th.
Oh, okay. So you had him. Wow, you had him on lickety-split.
I found Eli, and I contacted Oscar's office and gave him all the information that day.
Really?
I didn't waste any time. I did not waste any time with it.
So are you one of Oscar's clients?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, yes, right. Absolutely. Yes, he's drafted the letter. He drafted the letter, and I have it right here in my file.
Yeah, it's a great letter, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I haven't heard anything since.
Okay.
I still follow it. I probably don't need to follow this. I think I can probably, at this point in my life, put it behind me.
Yeah.
But I just think that it's an important issue that something needs to be done. Something needs to be changed somewhere.
Right.
Within this.
Well, Robert, I want to also commend you on being one of the few individuals that's willing to actually step out in a public way. And I sort of warned you beforehand, look, I don't ever require I'm not trying to out anybody, but right. One of the discussions that Oscar and I had early on is somebody has to step out. Someone has to have the courage. You have to put a face and a name, and you can't be this anonymous voice, screaming, because it doesn't carry credibility. And not to say that I'm all that, but I do have a track record of having done some things in my life. And I just said, you know what, since no one is willing to step up, I'm going to step out. And now that you're coming out, it really does help the cause. It's not just another faceless entity. Now, so what are your thoughts on that?
I tend to agree. I think, that the more people that will come out and discuss it more in an open way instead of, behind a forum or, completely hidden, yes. It puts a face and it puts a person, to the situation.
That's right.
And I think that may go a long way. And we, from reading the forums, we know what Getty's tactics are. They're going after the small mom and pop businesses who, we don't have the money to pay $1,000 for an image. It's as simple as that. And, we're easy targets to them. Mm-hmm. And I just think, the more people that come out and speak up against this, that it's gonna further our cause as we go forward.
Yeah. Well, I think I've said this before that if Getty had been a little bit more reasonable, I probably would have never launched a website. I probably would have cut a check and just be done with it. But I just felt like they just had a weird attitude specifically, and I only later found out after the research that the frontline people are college kids, and they're unempowered. So they've heard this 1,000 times, okay, or at least they think they have, and they have no power to make any kinds of meaningful decisions. Right. So it really falls on deaf ears. Did you speak to a college kid, or some young person?
Yeah, I believe it was. It wasn't certainly anybody up in the higher ranks, yeah. And I got the typical boilerplate, answers. I felt like I was calling, Comcast because, they're reading off a screen is what they're doing,
Yeah.
It was, and that was something that just furthered my idea that, I wasn't going to get anywhere here. Right. This was just, I was at a dead end, unfortunately.
So, Robert, now that you are sort of immersed in this for 2 years, what are your thoughts on the evolution of ELI and what we're doing and so forth? we're almost too much into it, Oscar, and I feel like it. As sort of an outsider, before we pulled you in, what's been your observations as it has evolved?
My main observation is that, we get the new people that come onto the forum. Obviously, I don't know how much they're reading into the forums or how much information they're going through. I think it's imperative that the new people come along, they get themselves more educated, and they can kind of, the format, I think, has grown enough to where it can sustain itself at this point. You and Oscar, shouldn't have to invest as much time as you have. I mean, it's there. All the information is there for the taking. It's the people just have to get in there and take what they want and leave the rest. And there's several different thoughts. There's the ignore it thought. There's the pay it and make it go away thought. Or there's the stand up and fight for what you think is right.
Yeah.
And people are ultimately going to have to make their own decisions. But in order to do that, you have to get educated.
Well, Robert, I completely agree with you, and I agree with you that Oscar and I have put a lot of posts up, and so we sort of look at it as an online database. Now, granted, is it handed to you in an organized silver platter? No. But if you're willing to do searches, I mean, there is a lot of reading. You could spend hours and hours reading and listening to the videos and so forth. And I think the problem is that, I don't know if it's a problem. I think it's a good problem. We have more information than people can digest. I don't know. Maybe it's too intimidating. What do you think?
Yeah, some of it, to be honest with you, there are some posts that I've started to read and I just, it's like, okay, this is getting way too deep, I'm not an attorney. I don't want to be an attorney.
Yeah.
And the details can get overwhelming.
Yeah.
But that's part of it.
Yeah.
This is a legal issue we're dealing with, so yeah, it's going to get involved.
Okay. So Robert, your situation seems to be under control. I mean, you obviously aren't worried because you're putting your name out there, and literally hundreds, if not thousands of people are going to get to know you, Robert. I mean, over the course of time, just by the sheer number of traffic that comes through. And we do, video updates so infrequently that when it does come out, it sort of gets jumped on. What are your thoughts now on why are you now revealing yourself?
It's just time. Like you said, I have nothing to worry about in this situation. It's well in hand. Oscar's done a fantastic job. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And I believe that with all of me. I firmly believe that. If it wasn't that situation, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Well, I have to tell you, I, for one, am glad. I mean, Oscar puts his face on it, but he never was a letter recipient. But nevertheless, he's an important member of the team, wouldn't you say? I mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And the other reason why I think I've become more involved is I've had clients that have gotten letters.
Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I think I've got 4 or 5 clients that have gotten letters. Part of my business model is that I do the design work. My client supplies me with images and content. Before I got into this mess, I didn't know anything about it. Obviously, I didn't know about Getty Images and all that, so I never questioned. Now all of my clients, they get a 10-minute education on imagery and where to get it and where not to get it and the do's and don'ts. Ultimately, some of those clients still go to Google, they do their thing, and at that point, my side of the street is clear. At least I've educated them.
Yeah. Well, Robert, hopefully this video will help some of your customers out. I mean, they get to meet the man behind all the servicing.
Exactly.
And you're speaking on the subject, and hopefully, when they see this, that you mean business. I mean, your clients need to get up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something to take lightly.
Yeah.
We know Getty's track record in regards to 1 or 2 images, they blow a lot of wind, but they really haven't acted, but that doesn't mean they're not going to.
Right.
At some time in the future. And it is me as a service provider, I have to watch out for my clients.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I want without my clients succeeding, I don't succeed. So I think I got to go that extra mile.
Well, and the thing about it is, if Getty, scares them into going out of business or puts them out of business, that's not in your best interest either.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay, great. Well, Robert, thanks for providing the updates. Now, as I'm going to make some announcements, and you can sort of chime in where you see it's appropriate. But the next topic I want to cover in this update is, Robert and I had talked about this, is that Oscar and I have never made a formal announcement regarding consultations and, advice and stuff like that. And I think that we've sort of waited too long, mainly because we just haven't had a time to formally articulate and acknowledge the issue. And I am going forth on record, going this point forward, letting everybody know is, please do not phone us. Do not email us asking for 5 minutes or 10 minutes of phone consultations. We're not going to give email consultations either. And the reason why we're taking such a hard stance is not to offend anybody. It's not that we don't care, but to be quite frank with you, we donate our time. There is some monies involved, but I'm telling you, it is just mainly just to offset some of our efforts and expenses. And that's pretty much it. I mean, neither one of us considers this a money-making venture. So, we get emails all the time. Oh, I just need 10 minutes of your time. What about this and what about that? And, in the early days, I would, do my best to respond and, do what I can, return a phone call. But it just, over time, it just got to be too much. And Robert, as I told you, just the other day, I got 5 requests. And so this comes in waves. I'm guessing these letters come in waves because it's very, very quiet for a little while. Then all of a sudden, everybody needs help, and the forum picks up. So there is definitely a pattern. So these are the options. Robert has been brought on as an official assistant moderator at this point. He will be answering questions online, and he understands most of where I stand and where Oscar stands. And Robert, I'm assuming you don't want direct emails either.
Not particularly, no.
Okay.
Everything can be handled through the forum, and most likely your questions can be answered on the forum. It's just a question of, digging them out and finding them.
Right.
But they're there.
Right. Okay. So, the 3 of us really don't want private emails. Please do not call us. And so I'm going to be posting a forum. It's now in this video. And going forward, if anybody calls me and they say Getty Images, you're likely to get hung up on. And I don't know how else to say it because, it even takes me about 10 minutes to explain why I'm not giving advice. It happened to me just the other day. I was like, oh, my God, this is killing me. I just can't have that anymore. So now, there is an out. Okay, there is one option that I'm going to do on an experimental basis. Right now, we have a PayPal option where people who are grateful or thankful, they send in like a small contribution. And we don't, my official stance is just put in $10 to $25 if you feel like it. If you don't want to, that's okay too. There is no condition to it. However, I will put my name on the line and say that if you make a $50 contribution, to support ELI, you will get 30 to 60 minutes of my time if you need it that much to talk. So I think that's sort of a nice compromise at this time. But I'm going to tell everybody, just like what Robert was saying earlier, you really need to do your part. The thing is, like I said, we're donating our time free. This is not a money-making venture. We are sympathetic, but if you're too lazy, quite frankly, to get up to speed, you sort of deserve what happens to you. And if that means you're getting an ulcer, then so be it. I don't know what to tell you. Robert, what's your thoughts?
You've hit the nail on the head, and I think that's a good idea with the PayPal.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not to make money. If this was a money-making operation, the letter would be costing $400 or $500 a clip, to pay for Oscar's time. Attorneys are not cheap. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm more than willing to volunteer my time to help out wherever I can, whether it be on the forums or, through Facebook or wherever, I monitor both. I monitor the news every day, just, to pick up little tidbits here and there.
Yeah.
The information it's here for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, admittedly, I mean, you're being a web developer and you host many sites. I mean, I'm sure you would agree with me. Eli's pretty ugly. Okay, I mean I keep saying it's an ugly site, but you know what? That's all I'm willing to put into it at this point. It's very bare bones, very unsophisticated. It's there for information. It is not to win any beauty contests, or webmaster awards or whatever.
It's fully functional, and that's we're getting the message across, and that's what's the important thing.
Well, great. Okay. Well, Robert, do you have any parting thoughts or anything you want to share with our audience at this point? Anything that sort of jumps out at you?
I think the one thing I would like to mention is for the camp that chooses to ignore. Ultimately, it's their decision to ignore it. I don't think it's the best avenue. I think, having an open line of communication going forward and then making an educated decision on what you want to do is the best option. If you ignore your measles, they're not going to go away. It's the same thing. And it's basically the same concept. Get educated, open a line of communication with them. If it ever does get to a courtroom, that's going to look good in your favor. Mm-hmm. Chances are it may not go that far, but at least you've taken the proactive approach as opposed to, the ignoring approach. And then get educated and make a decision on what you want to do.
Well, you sort of jogged my memory on on a particular topic of mine, and I think you've seen me harp on this many, many times. And, but I think people sort of need to grow a spine at some point in this. And, I mean, people are just... Look, I mean, I'll be the first one to admit to anybody that the getting the letter was not a fun experience. It sort of got me all worried, and I got taken back just like everybody else. And so that is everybody's initial reaction. So, but after the shock passes, you sort of recollect your thoughts and say, you know what, I need to look into this. And I guess that was my first instinct. It's just a natural curiosity. But what I don't quite understand is, we've got all this information and all this content out there, and people still don't have a spine. And I'm guessing it's because they want a guarantee. Unfortunately, in life, there are no guarantees. What are your thoughts about me harping about growing a spine? Am I being too harsh or what?
No, I don't think you're being too harsh. I don't know if I would put it quite that way, but it works, and it gets the message across. Yeah. But yeah, I think people need to stand up for themselves. And again, it's going to be their decision. Yeah. I don't know if it's because they don't have a spine, or maybe it's because they're guilty, and maybe they just maybe they are feeling some of that guilt. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist either by any means. I can see some of that. If they are guilty of something, or they feel that they're in the wrong, I can see them taking that tact.
I suppose. I guess the majority of the people I've met, it's always been sort of accidental or some weird circumstance. And I don't know. I mean, to me, if you have no money or you have very little money, you actually don't have a whole lot to worry about. They got nothing to take from you.
They got nothing to write.
And that's what Oscar and I have said. I mean, the people who are attorneys, they know how to hunt down assets. They know how to gauge whether a person actually has anything to get. So they get a judgment, and so what? It's an empty judgment. I mean, there's nothing. Right. You can't squeeze blood from a stone. Believe me, I know. I've tried.
Yeah, and the other thing, even if there is a judgment, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be any money changing hands. Even if there's money there,
yeah. Really, the only people that have something to worry about is actually if they actually had some assets. But even then, those are the people that can afford to pay it anyway. But
right, exactly.
Okay, well, Robert, thank you so much for joining the ELI team, and we're going to be updating Robert's account so that it's reflective that when he posts, he's sort of it's sort of an unofficial official response.
Right. And just, as long as everybody keeps in mind, I am I'm not an Oscar and I'm not an attorney.
Yeah, right.
I just I like to do my homework though.
Yeah. No, you've done a great job. Thank you so much, Robert. And I did tell Oscar that maybe one day we could do a three-way conference. I think that might be sort of fun. But,
absolutely.
Lining up the time is always a little bit of a challenge, as you figured out. So thank you, Robert. And we'll see you online.
Absolutely.
All right, for your listeners, I hope you enjoyed this short little update, and we'll see you on the forums. Thank you.